Richard and Diane are sitting at their kitchen table in Denver, Colorado. Richard just turned 59. Diane is 57. He's got his 401k statement open on his laptop, and for the first time in over 30 years of working, the question in his head isn't, do I have enough? It's, why am I still doing this, and do I actually need to? Whether you're already in your late 50s quietly planning to work until 65, or you're younger and just want to see this coming before it sneaks up on you, what happens at age 59 and a half changes the plan either way. Once you understand it, you may realize, like Richard did, that you're a lot closer to being able to stop working full-time than you think, without blowing up your retirement. In this video, I'll walk you through why age 59 and a half is such a powerful turning point, how retirement income works completely differently from paycheck income, the hidden cost of working too long, both in taxes and in years of your life you don't get back, and a practical framework so you can decide for yourself whether you truly need to keep working past 59 and a half. Stick around to the end because I'll give you one simple question to ask yourself tonight, the same one that helped Richard walk into work the next day with a completely different level of confidence. And a heads up, the math in this video is real. Grab a pen because you may want to jot some numbers down as we go. Section 1, why 59 and a half changes everything. Here's the rule that quietly changes everything, and it's exactly what Richard didn't fully understand yet. Before age 59 and a half, most withdrawals from traditional IRAs and 401ks get hit with a 10% early withdrawal penalty, stacked on top of your regular income tax. There are exceptions: disability, certain medical expenses, the rule of 55 for some 401ks, but for most people, touching that money early is expensive. The day you turn 59 and a half, that 10% penalty disappears from most retirement accounts. You still owe ordinary income tax on traditional account withdrawals, but the penalty is gone. That means your retirement accounts stop being locked boxes and start becoming tools you can actually use. For Richard, that meant something concrete. He'd been treating his 401k like it was still off limits, the same way it had been his entire career. He didn't realize the rules around his own money had already changed 6 months earlier. The real opportunity isn't just that you can take money out after 59 and a half, it's that you can now design how the money comes out and how that interacts with Social Security, Medicare, and required minimum distributions down the road. Think of 59 and a half as getting the master key to your retirement accounts. The question isn't, should I drain them now? It's, how do I unlock just enough in the smartest order so I can buy back my time without overpaying the IRS? Section 2, work income versus retirement income. Here's the mindset shift that changed things for Richard and Diane. Your income in retirement doesn't have to look anything like your income while you're working. A paycheck is rigid, almost every dollar taxed the same way, at the same bracket, every 2 weeks. But once you're no longer tied to a salary, your income becomes flexible. You get to choose how much you draw, which account it comes from, and how that mix hits your tax return. Picture 3 faucets over a kitchen sink, the same sink Richard and Diane were sitting at when they had this conversation. One faucet is labeled tax deferred, that's the 401k, and traditional IRA money. One is tax-free, that's Roth. One is taxable, regular brokerage, and cash. After 59 and a half, you decide how far to open each faucet every year, and that decision determines how much the IRS gets. For a lot of people, the stretch between 59 and a half and around 65, before Medicare and sometimes before claiming Social Security, ends up being the lowest tax years of their entire retirement if they stop or scale back work. Those can be the ideal years for partial Roth conversions or intentional withdrawals that fill up a lower bracket instead of overflowing into a higher one. Richard hadn't thought about his income as something he could design. He'd only ever thought about it as something his employer handed him. Section 3. The new RMD, ages, and your tax window. Recent law changes gave people in Richard and Diane's exact position, late 50s and early 60s, a bigger planning window than earlier generations had. Under Secure 2.0, the age you're required to start taking money out of most retirement accounts, the required minimum distribution age moved up to 73, and for anyone born in 1960 or later, it rises again to 75 starting in 2033. That means someone in Richard's position, in his late 50s today, may have somewhere between 10 and 15 years between turning 59 and a half and his first forced withdrawal. Why does that gap matter so much? Because every year you move money out of a tax-deferred account on your own terms, maybe converting a slice to a Roth IRA, maybe taking a withdrawal while you're sitting in a lower bracket. You're shrinking the size of the distribution the IRS will eventually force on you. Bigger forced withdrawals later can do three things nobody wants: push you into a higher tax bracket in your 70s and 80s, trigger higher Medicare, Part B and Part D premiums through income-related surcharges, and shrink your flexibility to manage taxes in the years you have the least energy for paperwork. If Richard keeps working full-time straight through his 60s with no plan, he could be handing the IRS and Medicare thousands of extra dollars a year once he's 75. He worked too hard for that outcome. The sweet spot is simple to describe: fewer or no paychecks, penalty-free access to retirement accounts, and no forced distributions yet. That's precisely the window that opens at 59 and a half. Section 4. The hidden cost of working too long. Most people assume working longer automatically makes retirement safer. More years of saving must mean more security, right? Not always, and this is the part that eventually landed for Richard. If you work full-time deep into your 60s, you may lose your lowest tax years entirely, the exact years when Roth conversions would have been cheapest, or when you could have drawn down tax-deferred balances before forced withdrawals kick in. Delaying retirement can also push more of your lifetime income into later years, right when tax brackets, Medicare surcharges, and required withdrawals all collide at once. There's a cost that never shows up on a spreadsheet, too. Every extra year spent working full-time in your early 60s is a year you're not going to get back at the energy level you have right now. Richard's father-in-law used to say his healthiest years for hiking and travel ended around 70, not 80. So the real question isn't, can I squeeze out a few more dollars by working longer? It's, what tax opportunities and healthy years am I giving up by staying in a job I don't need anymore? If a doctor told you your healthiest 5 years start today, would you spend them in meetings or with the people and projects you actually care about? Section 5. Health insurance before 65. The number one fear that kept Richard stuck wasn't taxes, it was health insurance. I'm terrified of what coverage costs before Medicare kicks in, he told Diane. That fear is real, but it becomes manageable once you attach real numbers to it. If you retire in your early 60s and buy coverage through the ACA marketplace, benchmark monthly premiums for someone in their early 60s have been estimated around $1,000 to $1,100 per person before any subsidies for 2026. That means a couple like Richard and Diane might see quotes near $2,000 a month before tax credits, depending on income and location. On the other side of that, once you turn 65 and enroll in Medicare, healthcare costs don't disappear either. Research has estimated that a typical 65-year-old couple retiring today may need well into six figures set aside over the rest of their lives just for premiums and out-of-pocket healthcare costs. Here's the part that surprised Richard. When you stop working and your taxable income drops between 59.5 and 65, you may actually reduce your marketplace premiums through income-based subsidies and open up more room to do Roth conversions without spilling into a higher bracket. Health insurance isn't automatically a reason you can't retire. It's a cost that has to be built into the plan, the same way Richard eventually built it into his. Section 6. Redefining enough. People ask constantly, how do I know when I have enough to retire? Most expect the answer to be a single number: 1 million, 2 million, 25 times annual expenses. Rules of thumb like the classic 4% withdrawal rule can be a useful starting point, but they were built around conservative assumptions and fixed spending. Historical research has actually shown that in many past periods, a 4% annual withdrawal left retirees with more money than they started with, and sustainable withdrawal rates have often run higher than the rule implies. The real definition of enough isn't just the size of the account balance. It's the clarity of the income plan. Once you know your spending, your tax brackets, your withdrawal order, your Social Security timing, and your healthcare plan, you stop guessing. A couple with $1.5 million and a clear strategy can feel far more confident than a couple with $4 million and no plan at all. Clarity is what turns fear into freedom, and it's what finally let Richard stop assuming just one more year was the safe answer. Section 7. A practical framework to decide if you can stop working. Here's the framework Richard and Diane actually used, broken into 7 steps you can walk through yourself. Step 1. Know your real spending number. Pull the last 6 to 12 months of bank and card statements and sort expenses into essentials, housing, food, utilities, insurance, and lifestyle, travel, gifts, hobbies. You can't answer, "Do I need to keep working?" until you know what your life actually costs. Step 2. Map your 3 buckets. Lay your accounts into 3 groups. Bucket 1, cash and near cash for the next 1 to 3 years. Checking, savings, short-term CDs. Bucket 2, conservative investments for years, 4 through 10, bonds and balance funds. Bucket 3, growth investments for 10 plus years out, stock funds and long-term growth. Around 59.5, a lot of people consolidate old 401ks into fewer accounts, so the whole picture is easier to see, and RMDs are easier to plan for later. Step 3, use the window between 59.5 and your RMD age intentionally. Treat those years as your tax design window. Ask, if I stop or reduce work, what bracket do I fall into? How much could I convert from traditional to Roth each year while staying in a comfortable bracket? Could I draw a modest amount from tax-deferred accounts now to shrink future RMDs and Medicare surcharges? A planner or good modeling software can run these scenarios year by year, the way Richard and Diane eventually did with theirs. Step 4. Decide your work style, not just your retirement date. Stopping full-time work at 59.5 doesn't have to mean going from 100% to 0 overnight. Some people retire completely, others shift to part-time or consulting. The real question is, if I stop full-time work today, how much income would I actually need from my investments to cover the gap? When people finally run that number, they're often surprised. Between savings, maybe a small pension, maybe a spouse still working, and intentional withdrawals, they don't need their full old salary at all. Step 5. Clean up debt and big obligations. Entering retirement carrying high-interest debt chokes your flexibility. Use your late 50s and early 60s to aggressively pay off credit cards and personal loans, then decide how you feel about the mortgage. Some people want a paid-off home for peace of mind, even when the math is debatable. If you have substantial savings and expensive debt, a carefully planned withdrawal after 59.5 can sometimes make sense to wipe it out, but only after running the tax impact. Step 6. Coordinate Social Security and any pensions. Create an account on the Social Security Administration's website and pull your benefit estimates at different claiming ages. For most people, every year you delay claiming from 62 to full retirement age increases your monthly benefit by roughly 5 to 6%, and from full retirement age to 70, the increase runs closer to 8% a year. If you or a spouse has a pension, get the payout options in writing, including early retirement reductions and lump sum choices. Coordinating these with your withdrawal and tax plan can add tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars over a retirement. Step 7. Design your next chapter on purpose. Spend real time sketching what life looks like after full-time work. Where will you live? What fills your days? What keeps you engaged and connected? The finances support this picture. They don't replace it. Once Richard and Diane sketched even a rough version. Sell the house in 3 years. Travel more while their knees still cooperate. Help their granddaughter with college. The fear of stepping away from work started shrinking on its own. So here's how it actually played out for Richard and Diane. They sat down and did exactly what we just walked through. They measured their real spending, mapped their 3 buckets, modeled withdrawals from 59.5 out to 70, and compared a few different Social Security claiming strategies. What they found surprised them. They didn't need Richard's full salary anymore. If he stopped full-time work at 60, they could cover the gap with a mix of modest IRA withdrawals inside a low bracket, a small Roth conversion each year, marketplace health coverage that was manageable once their income dropped, and Diane working part-time for a couple more years, doing something she actually enjoyed. Richard ended up leaving full-time work at 62 instead of 65, and he tells anyone who will listen that he wishes he'd done it sooner. The gap in energy between 59 and 62 turned out to be much bigger than he expected, and those first retirement years became some of the richest of his life. The point isn't that everyone should retire at 59.5 or 62. The point is that once you actually understand what that age unlocks, penalty-free access, a real tax planning window, flexible income, you may find you no longer want to keep working the way you have been. Whether you're already close to this window or still years away, here's the question to ask yourself tonight, before you go to bed. If I stopped full-time work at 59 and a half or 60, exactly how much income would I truly need from my investments? After accounting for savings, part-time work, and Social Security timing, to live the life I actually want. Not the life your neighbor is living. Not the life the commercials are selling you. The life you want. If you don't know that number yet, it's time to build the plan. If this helped, do 3 things. Hit like so more people in your situation see it. Subscribe for more deep dives on Social Security, Roth conversions, and retirement taxes. And drop a comment with the word clarity if you want more videos on using age 59 and a half to buy back your time. Retirement isn't about working until you can't move anymore. It's about using the math and a clear plan. So you get to stop working when you no longer need to, not when someone else's calendar tells you to. I'll see you in the next video.